Hello and welcome back to the Stacks. I apologise for a slightly raspy voice. I am a little bit full of cold, but I am also full of that FFC. Francis Ford Coppola, I guess, really, but Francis Ford Coppola. I am Stephen, and with me as always is Francis Ford Coppola's movie.
It's Jack. I've not seen Jack.
It's
I wish I'd seen
Jack.
Jack. I'm also full of cold. Also had my COVID booster this morning, so I'm a bit groggy. We'll all be fine. Francis is here to lead us through the charge. Stephen, why did you watch all of Francis Ford Coppola's movies?
Well, I rewatched a bunch as well. I rewatched all the ones I'd seen before, apart from I watched only half of The Conversation. I'm going to listen to the other half of The Conversation at some point. Just because I just didn't get around to finishing it. I watched half of it and then I went to bed and just didn't pick up the second half. No reflection on the film. We'll get to, well, I'm not going to say, maybe it is, putting it in a ranking. So I watched a film called Megalopolis.
I've heard of it.
I was really beguiled by it, and I didn't know what I thought about it. And I really enjoyed that I didn't know what I thought about it. So, in terms of self-parody and due diligence, I decided to watch a bunch of films that I thought linked to it thematically. I watched a couple of Fellini movies. I watched Satyricon and Roma, and Roma definitely was a great link. I rewatched Hearts of Darkness, The Apocalypse Now, making of documentary, which really did kind of like clarify some things about Megalopolis for me. And I thought, you know what? I wonder if this is his masterwork he's been thinking of since just after the conversation. I wonder if we can see this work echoed through his filmography. Or is this singular, weird, incomprehensible thing? Or is it the kind of thing he's been working on? And the conclusion was the latter, that it is a collection of the themes he's been working on his whole career. And I found that really edifying and really interesting.
Interesting, very interesting, because my takeaway from Megalopolis was I have no idea what this thing is. I genuinely have no idea what this is. It's been weeks since I've seen it. I want to see it again. I absolutely adored it. I think it's just, for the most part, incomprehensible garbage, but I loved it so much. And again, just it's one of those films that I can see myself returning to just to try and unpick it and work myself through the film again. But yeah, Francis Ford Coppola has always been an interesting one. He's one of the giants, one of the titans of that sort of 70s of New Hollywood
part
wave.
Of the movie company and then American Zoetrope. There's that amazing, because it's the book Easy Riders and Raging Bulls goes through the formation of New Hollywood, and it's got loads of great anecdotes about the foundation of the movie company and American Zoetrope. And there's a great bit where William Friedkin is really pissed off because he makes making movies that make damn money. And then Francis Ford Coppola is going out there and making one from the heart and just losing all that money. And Friedkin is making The French Connection and The Exorcist. And he's saying, I'm making art and money. I thought that was the deal here. And I feel like I'm just bankrolling all of your stuff. And John Milius is there, kind of, in part of the group. So yeah, you got, and obviously you got George Lucas, long-term friend.
In a galaxy
and
far, far away.
Kind of producer, collaborator. Which when we get to Apocalypse Now, that was going to be Milius, then it's going to be Lucas, and then eventually it was Coppola. So Milius did the original script, and Lucas was going to direct. Would have been a very different movie.
A lot of Ewoks.
And then we end up with the stitched together from all kinds of wild footage Apocalypse Now that we have in its multiple cuts. I watched the ultimate cut for this. I'd previously seen the Redux or Redo. I don't know which way you're supposed to say it.
I've seen Redux and the original theatrical.
And I've seen the original was the first time because I got it from the university library, and that's the one they had on DVD. That's digital versatile disc. So I'm going to take you from his origins as a sexploitation filmmaker to his Roger Corman protege period, to I'm making movies now, to one of the most legendary runs of feature films, to the massive flop that got him into huge amounts of debt that meant he was indebted to studios for a long time, to a very interesting period of films in the 80s, to some commercial failures, some ghost-directed stuff, some uncredited stuff, and then his late style trilogy, which is then topped off with Megalopolis as a film after that. And that's what we've got for Francis Ford Coppola. And
so
talk me through chronologically.
Talk me through the categories that you've laid out here, the tiers of the tier list, please.
So at the top, we've got the Godfather tier. So the God tier films. These are the best of the best. And we will rank them within their tiers as well. So
of course, as we always do.
The furthest left of the tier is the best. This is mostly according to me, but I will take some push from Jack at points.
Very, very minor. Looking at the general layout here, a lot of new territory for me, but some staples. I mean, I can weigh in on things like Captain EO and New York Stories. The real Coppola staples.
Captain EO is one of the films most like Megalopolis in his filmography.
Amazing. Love to hear it.
Genuinely. So I've got Godfather tier, Ones from the Heart, so the real good stuff, worthy of conversation. So nice. Conversation pieces worth talking about, maybe not great. Outsiders and Megaslopolis.
Megaslopolis, got to be done. Absolutely.
Yeah. So absolute trash, the trash tier. So bad. So basically trash, bad, okay, great, fantastic.
Yep.
The okay tier ranges from good to okay. That's the most versatile tier. I think you're going to see quite a wide range in there. So we're going to start with the student film The Peeper. Now, The Peeper is a short scene of someone that is following a woman. It's lots of POV shots, and he is disgusted by this woman, showing, she's walking around provocatively, he thinks. So he follows her into a place where they take pictures of women, and they take naked pictures of women in there, and he is so affronted by that. The joke of the piece is he wants to go perv on naked women, so he pretends that he's against it to do it. So therefore he peeks on her, saying, "Oh, I can't believe this. I'm doing this for research, blah, blah, blah." That's the joke of the short. It's really.
I was only there to get directions on how to get away from there.
Exactly. It's not good in its short form sense. It does push that peeping Tom idea of making you complicit in your own viewing, but it is so clearly it is doing that so it can just get away with doing that. So I'm not going to say it's Megaslopolis.
Is it Megaslopolis or is it an outsider?
You know what? It's Megaslopolis.
It's Megaslopolis. Come on, we're starting off strong.
It is bad. It is bad. Yep. Then we go to the Bellboy and there's this one actually.
Jerry Lewis film Bellboy
should be in front of this, which I'm leaning forwards to see tonight for sure.
Sure.
Which is the expanded version of that film. It is It is the feature length film.
Yeah, got you.
And it's worse for it because it kind of works as a point over a few minutes of, I see there's an idea here, and giving it a little bit of, okay, I see what you're doing. It's like, oh no, you're not doing that though, are you? So over the longer form, no, I think it is really quite acutely terrible. So that is not a win for me. So we are in the sexploitation era. This is also interestingly, his dad does the scores to these. So
good.
That's an interesting conversation at home.
Nepo
the Bellboy and the Playgirls.
The Bellboy and the Playgirls.
This is only 15 minutes of Coppola direction.
With Fritz Umgelter?
Yeah, so it's a random German film about a play being done in black and white that the studio got, and they just interspersed with full colour sequences directed by Coppola of a bellboy watching this thing happen. So watching what's happening, and he goes because he wants to understand women. It's the same premise as the bloody
real
last
peeper.
movie. He wants to
peeping.
It's that he wants to understand women so he can see them naked, and so he gets himself into a plot at the hotel where he's a bellboy, where he manipulates and tricks his way into being in a room of naked women so he can stare at them under false pretenses. It's trash, and it's worse than the previous one because it's mostly just a different film and bad. So we start off pretty badly. Have you seen The Terror?
No, I have not. Why is The Terror not on? Is he not directed?
He is one of many uncredited directors on this movie.
Right,
if you go to the Wikipedia page for The Terror, you'll see the complete list of directors for it. I think in my review, I named them. It's got a really interesting production story I won't get into now that is way more interesting than the film itself, about why it is the way it is, why certain actors are hardly in it, they're being on retainer, etc.
This is a Corman joint, right?
Yes, so this is credited solely to Corman at the moment. It depends which version you watch, really.
Right.
But it is also credited to Monty Hellman, Jack Hill, Francis Ford Coppola, and Jack Nicholson.
Oh, what, Nicholson behind the camera? Interesting.
Yes, and he's also the lead of the film.
Yeah, with
so it is
Boris Karloff.
Yes, well, kind of, barely. It's not a very good movie. So it's Roger Corman and those big names, interesting names, and that is why it's notable. It's a... it's just not very good. Nonsense, he's self-serious. He sees the dead woman that can't be dead, etc., etc., and it turns out it's this kind of like revenant avenging thing. It's pretty crap. So I'm going to put it in Megaslopolis. It's not worth watching. Dementia 13,
Oh,
which
yeah, I've
you've
seen
seen.
this one. I have seen this one. This is
Yeah.
this is another Corman era, right?
Yes, he sees this as his first film. Dementia 13 was pitched as a Psycho ripoff.
That makes sense.
So make me a Psycho, which is kind of fun because Psycho was already kind of a B movie in terms of the budgetary constraints of it. So then when the proper B movie people were doing that, so Corman gets his boy to make him that. Lots of violence, some nudity, etc. It's kind of interesting at being a knockoff Psycho because it's got this idea of it copies some of the plot points of Psycho, but it doesn't copy the overall plot. So it's got someone going on the run and arriving into this one location, and then it's got an early character death you're not expecting, and it's really cool in the movie. And you just go, oh, that's just there because it's in Psycho.
Yes,
so it is actually kind of brought down by that. So I can actually go, oh, I didn't think they'd go that way. That's kind of interesting. But that doesn't seem to be what he's really focused on, because there's this other narrative about this family in this house that the daughter has died in the past. It's kind of Red Queen Kills 7 Times style. A film that's come up to me several times today because movies
love that movie.
It. They do. Of a kid died in the past, and it's haunted this family, and it's about the secrets to be uncovered, and it's more really a narrative, kind of like a gothic British chamber drama kind of style horror about that with this leery stuff, and it's like a slasher around that. It is mixed, it doesn't come together, but it's interesting. I think it's overall it's pretty good, and it's got some flair in it. So I'm saying it's an outsider.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's not Megaslopolis. It's
not Megaslopolis.
It's pretty good.
It's not worthy of conversation. We're having a conversation of it, but it's not worthy of conversation in these tiers. No. But yeah, typical Corman fashion.
I might bump it up at the end. We'll see.
Taking a film that is incredibly popular and well received, and then truncating that down to 75 minutes sharp.
Yes, exactly. That's what's interesting about it. Okay, we're in the real films now. From now forward, apart from Megalopolis, and actually some of these that are definitely not real films. So we're not actually in real film territory now. Some of these are not real films still.
We're never actually getting into real films.
Yes, you're a big boy now.
Thank you very much, but we're talking about movies today. What is
You're
this?
A big boy, You're a Big Boy Now is a kind of carry-on-esque, goofy, coming-of-age, screwball-y comedy.
Yep.
Leering-y O matron thing of a forever child. This is what stuck out to me, and this is the beginning of this trope in his filmography. He loves the forever child, and Megalopolis is an expansion of that idea.
There's definitely some of that.
The childlike figure at the centre, because he loves the idea of seeing the world through a child's lens and what that means. And obviously he literalises that so totally in Jack, which is why Jack fits into his filmography so brilliantly. And even in his New York Stories piece, it is about that idea of the world through the eyes of the child. And Rumblefish as well is about this very childlike, repressed idea. And there's something of that in The Godfather. It is like the most emotive arc in The Godfather of Fredo is about him being kind of kept as a child in that family, even though he's not the child of that family. So it's a theme he can do really well with, and it's a theme that he clearly loves. And he has a vampire film later about a child that's a vampire, so come on. So this is that as a comedy. There are some fun jokes from that kind of idea of this person is getting in sexual situations, getting in adult situations, doesn't know things, ultimately he's being set up. It's just really leering, and it's just ultimately not very good. So I'm putting it on the outsider thing.
Sounds like all the carry-on movies I've seen.
Yeah. Finian's Rainbow.
Okay, interesting.
His first studio picture, and one of the late musicals for Fred Astaire.
Yeah, this is 68, which feels very late for Mr. Astaire.
It is. It is a director before their prime and a star past their prime. It is not a good combination. This movie is absolutely dreadful. It's maybe his worst film.
1 star. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, it's really, truly terrible. It's the longest film ever made. It is an adaptation of a stage show. Well, musicals are always quite long because they've got long songs in them. The songs are bad. I'm sure they're bad in the stage show as well. The plot is ridiculous. So Fred Astaire, playing an Irishman, has come to America, come to this to look for Finian's Rainbow and the gold therein, and finds himself in a racist town. And due to great contrivance, when at a special place, I guess the Magic Spot. Actually, I don't want to incur that movie here because there's a bit of slander that movie.
How dare you?
By comparison, it's a place of endemic racism in the South. And there's this senator who's very racist and is passing laws against the black population, specifically anti-black racism. And someone wishes him black and then the senator is in blackface for the rest of the film as a way of showing that racism is bad.
Oh no!
Because then he has to live as a black person and realise that the policies he's done are bad. And
yikes!
There's something of Megalopolis here in terms of the misguided political lens of I see what you are going for, but my man, this is not it. This kind of very limited, attempted liberal ideas that don't work out. And I feel the lead of Megalopolis, it's not going to the extent of the racism here, but there is classism in Megalopolis, definitely. There is a homogenization, there is a demonization, a homogenization of the working class in that film, and an ignorance of wider experience. And I would say Megalopolis is ultimately quite a misogynistic film, more passively than actively. And it's interesting to see that throughout its career. But yeah, Finian's Rainbow is absolute crap. Truly terrible. Because it's an actual film, I'm putting it last, because it's an actual movie. That's not. That's just softcore porn.
Hell yeah.
So, I mean, there is at least a purpose for that, I guess.
Sure,
That's just racist trash. I'm saying racism worse than porn.
Hot take.
There you go. On our tier ranking of controversial taboos. The Rain People.
James Caan. Shirley Knight.
I love this movie. I love it. I think it's really, really interesting. And this is the first great Coppola movie. It is a really well written and well acted drama about. Have you seen Wanda? The Barbara Loden movie. No. Oh, it's so good. That film kind of ate this one's lunch, and it's not fair to criticise it for that because that film came out later. Because that film is from a female director and gets the interiority of the female experience much better. This is a great female-led film, and the lead actor is so good that she gives it that sense. But it is very much a film about misogyny, but from a male perspective. But that does give an understanding. It is very of its time, and I usually don't like that phrase, but it's of its time in a very literal sense of it is in tune with the wave of feminism of its time. That idea, it's not very intersectional, it's not hugely aware, so there are limits to its feminism in the way that the feminism of the time as a movement was limited, because it's very much about the idea that women are imprisoned by the social constructs of marriage and the expectations to have children and be mothers, that is a prison put around women. And the film starts with this woman leaving her house at 6 in the morning where her husband is to just say, I just need to get out of this house. I don't know if it's for a year, a day, an hour, I just need to leave. And then later we find out she's pregnant, and that's what's inspired this, of she just doesn't want to be a mother. She doesn't want to be a wife because she feels disbanded. She doesn't know what she wants to be. That's not the entire film, because she picks up James Caan on the road and strikes friendship with him, and then realises over time that there's something off about James Caan's character. And James Caan's character had a serious football injury that means he has a metal plate in his head, so he is intellectually stunted. He is a kind of forever child. That is the plot of the movie. Now, the equivalence becomes a problem. I cited a very racist John Lennon song, not by name, in my review, because it's very similar in that way, of it saying, look, women are the disabled of society. This man is mentally disabled. Look how she's disabled. And it's making a point, but it's so...
Drawing a position between the two.
Yeah, it becomes a top trumps of prejudice as opposed to the intersectionality. And this is before Kimberly Crenshaw. This is before the popularisation of the intersectional argument and conversation. But it's still a really perceptive, really well-written drama of really good characters. And the way it moves is very strong. It looks great. There's some real poetry to it. I think it's a really great movie. So I'm putting it as one from the heart. Next up is a film called The Godfather.
I've heard of it. I've definitely
It's in The Godfather too. The Godfather was absolutely incredible. I watched it again and liked it more than I ever did. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, very, very good. I watched 1 and 2 back-to-back in the Stockport Plaza Cinema a few years ago.
I saw the Evil Dead trilogy there and then went home before the first one.
Awesome.
The last one, sorry.
The Army of Darkness?
At that point, last one, the Alvarez movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we watched, Emma hadn't seen any of them before, so we watched the 3.
Which is, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
It's the second time I've seen Evil Dead in the cinema.
This is the first time two cis white men are going to tell you The Godfather's pretty good.
It's really, really good. I liked it more than I thought that I did. I think it's such an intelligent, layered movie, and I got so much out of it on a rewatch. I forgot how dark and kind of expressionist it is with its cinematography, and it's doing so much. And
so Gordon Willis, I think. Is it Gordon Willis?
I think so, yes.
Shots, that bad boy.
I love that the arc of the film is Michael Corleone's arc coming up to it, and you have these juxtaposing performances of the very kind of cartoonish, ogre-esque Brando, and the really subtle, brilliant Pacino, and it's the first scene is so key to this movie, of someone just gives this really horrible speech, horrible in terms of what it's about this just horrendous sexual assault, violent sexual assault, and then the Don is not affronted by any of the content, but is affronted by the person did not make the right gestures in terms of face. That's the movie so well. People so numbed to violence, but all they care about is standing, and it is the unraveling of what that means.
The shroud around the content.
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and I think it's really a really astonishing film. Next up is The Conversation.
Great saxophone movie.
Really good saxophone movie. I think this is Francis Ford Coppola's best movie. I think it's absolutely incredible. So, Godfather, go away. I love The Conversation. It is, so person hears a thing they shouldn't, or makes them hear a thing they shouldn't. It is a very theological movie I picked up when watching half of it for the second time, because it's very much about the idea of the weight of the all-seeing presence. If you hear everything, if you're witness to everyone's crimes, are you motivated to act? Should you intervene? What does it mean to play God in that way? It's obviously about surveillance states, it's obviously about privacy, it's about the way that nations act and act through people that are just pawns and don't know these things. And the performance is so good, and I love the constraints in it. The sound design is absolutely brilliant. It's a phenomenal movie. The Godfather Part 2.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
I was going to be, because I feel The Godfather 1 is such a cohesive work, and it's got an amazing cross-cutting scene at the end, the parallel editing scene of I'm having my baptism, but I'm also having my baptism into the mob as the killing of the five families. Oh, it's so good. And The Godfather 2 goes, all right, you love that parallel editing. What if that's the film? What if we paralleled these two stories the entire time? And it's so structurally intelligent, and the way it deconstructs and pulls Corleone's character back, Michael Corleone, and the way it ends is one of the most poignant, intelligent endings that says all it needs to say about the downfall of this man. And when I sat on it, when I thought about it, I do think it is a superior film. So I'm going to put it just there, head there.
That's the
trilogy. Are you familiar with this, The Godfather Epic?
Was that like a combo?
It is a TV re-edit that Coppola puts the films into chronological order for 7 hours.
The machete cut.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, so I can't rank it, but because I couldn't find it.
It's interesting that it's there.
There you go.
I just assumed it was just one of those collections that's just like if you watch the box set, you get to log that or whatever. Yeah.
I want to watch it. That would make it worse, because what I just said about why Godfather 2 is so good.
Let's not do that.
It would make it worse. Apocalypse Now.
Good movie. Good Harrison Ford.
Yeah. I thought I wouldn't like as much.
Larry Fishburne.
Yes. Who's in a few of these. I thought I wouldn't like Apocalypse Now as much upon visiting, because it does really have issues with optics. He said in that big statement that this film is Vietnam, and it's so not. It's not even filmed in Vietnam. It's nothing to do with Vietnam. What it is it's about Americans' obsession with itself. So therefore, I understand so many critics taking against how the Vietnamese presence in this film is so pushed to the side. And it's a story about imperialism that has no care for those who are actually the victims of it. It's only about the oppressors. But that becomes a point to me of that is American imperialism. It is only seeing itself. And the warped, feverish quality of this film is so intoxicatingly weird, and it sells that so well. So I do think it's absolutely stunning, kind of because of its flaws. So it's not The Godfather, which is pretty perfect in the way that it flows. It is imperfect, but it's brilliantly imperfect. So it is at the edge
of the Godfather tier. Right, so now we're getting into some new territory for me. So what is...
Do you have any idea what this movie is? Because it's not a movie.
This
is Jerry Brown, The Shape of Things to Come.
No, I have no idea what this is.
Jerry Brown, The Shape of Things to Come is I have not rated this.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's a live TV broadcast.
Interesting.
Of Jerry Brown, who was wanting to be the Democratic presidential candidate. And he wasn't doing amazingly, but he was doing fine.
Until...
And generally, this ruined him.
Oh my God.
He hired Francis Ford Coppola to do a promotional video for him. And what Coppola did is, Coppola's obsessed with this idea of live cinema, and he wrote a book about it I really want to read. that's kind of just matching the ideas of live television to the potential of cinema. So this is a done live special effects production. So it's a live stream of a person's speech, and so this is from 1980. So that's pretty impressive. It's too impressive because it fails on live TV.
Ooh,
so it
cool.
starts with text coming up saying where it is, and you see someone type out the text wrong and go back and correct it, and you go, oh dear.
I like that, though.
And most of the speech is just him talking, and he's very pragmatic and very straightforward.
Yeah,
and
sure.
should not have made this outlandish thing because it undercuts his. What covers is totally undercuts his message, because the film is just superimposed generic footage behind him that just keeps bleeding into his face, so he keeps just warping into the background. There's no real audio for the first minute or so, and then it's just warping, distorted audio. So Coppola killed this man's presidential career.
Wow, I love that. Through an experimental blooper reel of a showcase. That's really
worthy of conversation.
Worthy of conversation.
Yeah,
killed a man's career. What
a thing! What an absolutely
very
weird thing.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very cool. Have you seen One from the Heart?
I have not.
I think it's fabulous. Our friend Matt, and I agree with him, said this is what he wanted Megalopolis to be, in this specific way of, the centre of this film is bad, I think the narrative is bad and the characters are bad, but the craft around it is so phenomenal and so intoxicating, it becomes truly remarkable, and it heightens it so well. And there is something of that in Megalopolis, if you've got this really fascinating
100%.
craft around vapidity. What this is a full-on glamorous musical filmed on the American Zoetrope studio. The whole studio, so much money. This lost so much money that he was in debt and ruined his career for a while. But it's so experimental and so beautiful. So it's this big American musical, but it's also like a Cassavetes movie. So it's this raw, breaking down relationship film crossed with a magical fantalist musical. And that idea is so good that it elevates the film so well. So the characters are not good. It's regressive, it's nasty, the narrative is not good. Because it's like a symbolic piece in the overall film, it works as its piece. And I just think it is a remarkable, beautiful film that swept me up so totally. I think it's absolutely stunning. So it's a real one from the heart. Which just makes sense because it is one from the heart.
It's got to be done. Got to be done.
Yeah, it's great. You seen The Outsiders?
Yeah, I read the book in school and watched the
did
film.
You?
Yeah,
cool.
Must have been, like year 8, I want to say. So this is...
That sounds right.
Many, many, many years ago. Watched the film alongside that. So my memories of it are practically non-existent. But did you watch it for the first time for this? Or
yeah, I did.
I
watched the new cut, which is the complete novel, the longer cut, which is the one I had access to. I wish I hadn't. I wish I watched the short cut. It's just not really for me. It's just a bunch of dudes being dudes for
that's the stuff you're drawn to in year 8 as an all boys school, I think.
I don't think it's bad. I just don't. I found myself struggling to connect with it, and I think it looks very nice and it moves well, but I just couldn't get a latch onto the narrative, and I just felt my attention waning, and I felt losing bits of the film. So I'm gonna put it as
quite an interesting one to then roll into Rumblefish, though. I feel.
Yeah. What do you think about Rumblefish?
Another one I've not seen for a while, and I had quite a good one with this. I'm just looking at my log here. It's sort of like because it's what's his name, Matt Dillon, the lead performance. I think that was the first time I really saw Matt Dillon outside of the house that Jack built.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm talking about French New Wave and high contrast black and white here, and young portraits of young men in the 50s, and I think that's very much what my takeaway from that movie was many years ago.
It's totally spot on. I think this is an absolutely great movie. It's such a good film about how if people are restricted by their environment, they grow up as restricted people. It's the eternal child film. So we have Dylan in this Matt Dillon in this central role. I don't think it's a great performance from him. I think he eggs it a bit too much. I think the secondary performance of the brother, which I'm blanking on who it is.
Mickey Rourke.
Yeah,
Mickey Rourke.
Yes,
Dennis Hopper.
I think Mickey Rourke is excellent. Dennis Hopper is really good. Lightly playing against type because he's not absolutely mad, but he's still got that Dennis Hopper thing to him.
I think I always confuse this one as a Jarmusch film for some reason.
It is very like that.
The Tom Waits connection as well.
Yes,
that's sort of like that large ensemble cast. I think I always got this one confused as a Jarmusch film. I think there's something that bleeds into that.
very much is, without kind of the ironic kind of sarcastic humour that
Jarmusch
work. But it's such a pulpy, hyperbolic, exaggerated film, but it fits the narrative perfectly, because these people, that is their lives, and it gets us written so well. The black and white reflects their black and white view, and there are bits of colour of these fish, and it's about returning fish to the ocean, wanting to do that, and then the realisation that you can't just return a fish from a pet to the ocean or to the river because it will die. And it's a very crude symbolic narrative, but it's a very good symbolic narrative of these characters. And the crudity works for it because it is about the brashness of adolescence, or extended adolescence, to these young adults. I think it's one from the heart. I think it's really, really good. The Cotton Club.
No idea.
The Cotton Club is really, really great. It's a return to the mob movie. This is part Fosse-esque jazz musical in the jazz age, and part mob movie about the underpinning operations of that. Really good musical numbers, really strong performances. It's just intoxicating. It's just really good music, really good cinematography, really fun time. It's just great. It's one of those things where I don't have a highfalutin take about it. It just goes down real smooth and is just very, very good.
Excellent.
On the back end of One from the Heart. Captain EO.
Captain EO, I mean, 17 minutes of Michael Jackson doing Disney Star Wars before Star Wars was Disney.
So the plot of Megaslopolis, right, is about a misunderstood artist who finds themselves in a culture that is alien to them and an authority figure alien to them, and the only way he has forward is to use his unique capability of art to win the hearts and minds of the people, to create its opus, which forces change. It's the same plot of Captain EO.
It's the same plot.
The exact
same ragtag crew and a dystopian mission.
Yeah, it's the same. Worthy of conversation.
100%.
More worthy than stopping a politician's career.
An incredible corporate oddity that you find out that was Coppola in the midst of you going through the big popular Godfathers and the conversations. And I think what was going on in the 80s. But yeah, 17 minutes long, absolutely buck wild.
It's kind of ugly as sin, but also weirdly beautiful.
Like Megalopolis,
Yeah. Have you seen Peggy Sue Got Married?
No, and what is the Jonathan Demme film I'm thinking of that I got this confused? It's like
Rachel Got Married.
Rachel Got Married. A lot of people
Rachel
getting
married.
Heard you got married. No, again, not seen this one. Would like to.
You really should. I was floored by this film. Just really emotionally wrecked by it. I'm really surprised. I think it's an astonishing film. Maybe if I watched it again, I wouldn't be hit as strongly by it. But so the idea is that it's a 25 years on high school reunion. Peggy Sue, she got married. Her life's not where she wants it to be. She's not with her husband at the moment because he's gone for somebody else, etc., etc. Life is not good. She's happy about her kids, but finds herself wistful, and it's a forever child movie in that way. So she is picked as I forget what the term is, but the queen of this
prom queen.
The queen, prom queen in a way.
The homecoming queen?
The homecoming queen of this, not revival, I used the word a second
reunion.
ago. Reunion, that's it. So she's the queen of the reunion, and she passes out on stage, and she wakes up back in the last year of high school, able to make those decisions again, but with her adult understanding of the world, and it becomes this it's a really good comedy, it's a really good character piece, the performance is really strong, and it's just about those vulnerable years where you make yourself, because we all think, right, that, and I like to think this must be the case, we are all bags of regrets and bad decisions. Yeah,
that's called being a human being.
Yeah, so I like to think that if I was to go back, I would play less Halo 3 and revise more for my GCSEs.
Not
However,
a chance. Are you kidding me? I'd play so much more Halo 3.
But I know that if I was to go back, I'd go back and be myself, and I would never not be able to make that decision. No. Because at the time when we make these formative decisions, we are not quite ourselves, and children will never do that thing. And that becomes the emotional core of the film, really. You've got to make these decisions, which might be bad, because they are the things that make you, and your perspective as an adult is forever removed, and you can live your life of regrets. And you should reflect on these things, and it makes you refocus on the people in your life, who they actually are. You learn more about them, the struggles they were going through. It's a great Nicolas Cage performance in this, really fun. I just thought it was stunning, and I'm going to say it is Godfather tier.
Godfather 3 got you. Jim Carrey's in this? What? Cool.
There you go.
Yeah, very, very cool. Would like to see that one.
What's
next?
Rip
What is this?
Van Winkle.
What on earth is this?
This is a Harry Dean Stanton made-for-TV theatrical performance of the story of Rip Van Winkle, the man that falls asleep and misses the Civil War.
Part of Shelley Duvall's fairy tale theatre, of course.
Yeah. It's theatrically impressive sets. The story is kind of fun, but it is what it is. It's limited by being this TV theatre production. It's worthy of conversation. It's got a Harry Dean Stanton being Harry Dean Stanton. He sleeps through the war, wakes up, is confused. There's two of him at some point. Great, interesting.
That sounds perfect. Sounds like a 5-star movie. Go on.
Gardens of Stone.
Again, just making up movie. I genuinely just did not.
This is the weird period of Coppola. This is the very strange period before another very strange period later. Gardens of Stone. So if Cotton Club was the return to The Godfather but different. So rather than mafia crime families, it's the swingers and the jazz age and prohibition clubs. Gardens of Stone is his return to Vietnam but from the home front. It is about the people in the army whose job it is to ceremonially bury the dead. And the dead are those coming back from Vietnam. The kicker is, our main characters want to be out in Vietnam, but they can't be, and some of it's their own success. They've been promoted to position now for ornamental. One won't get put to this place, but wants to be in this place. And it's a film about the Vietnam War, definitely, and it is about these characters. There is a kind of recreation scene of a drill. They do the Vietnam thing, and it's got some Doors music in it, so that's kind of a fun look. It's Apocalypse Now. I don't think it's overly good as a film. I think it's quite interesting because I don't think it finds the thing it wants to be about, and it doesn't find a narrative. And I think there's a real reason for that. Of this film was embarked on when Coppola's son had just died, and James Caan returns to acting in this after having a huge personal tragedy, and the film is just suffused with such sadness that it emotionally works in the text of the film, and it earns that. Even if the narrative doesn't really work, and it doesn't really go anywhere or come together. So these things, these hindrances and tragedies do give it a weight that makes it worthy of conversation.
That's fair.
Are you familiar with Tucker, the Man in His Dream?
I don't think I realised how many Coppola movies there were, and B, how little I'd seen until you undertook this journey.
Yeah,
because
I know, right?
A Jeff Bridges designing car movie sounds very intriguing. Yeah,
so it's the ostensibly true story of Preston Tucker, who wanted to make the Tucker automobile to challenge the big four. So it's Megalopolis. This is the way that people do something. I have this brand new way, and through force of personality, even though the people don't want it, I'm going to make it. And in the end, I don't succeed, but I made the damn thing. So the story of this film is kind of the story of the making of Megalopolis. Of no one wants this. It's a work of grand libertarian pursuit. Of I have this great thing the masses don't want, but they should want, and I'm going to make it. And audiences don't care, but I'm going to make it, and then doing it. And I learned from this that Coppola loves that, and it's such a hagiography of this dude. It's really cool. It looks amazing. It's so slick. It's filmed like promotional material of the time. So it is really interesting to watch. Lots of fun camera trickery. It gets a bit boring towards the end as it gets into being a courtroom drama, but it's got real pizzazz the whole way through, and it's really dialed up, and it's fun. I really enjoy it, but it is so emptily hagiographic. It shows no flaws as person, because Coppola is totally lionized into that person and sees himself as this. And I think that's really interesting, and for that reason it is very much worthy of conversation.
What if he did an anthology film with Francis Ford Coppola, Woody Allen, and Scorsese?
Yeah. I'm going to rank this film by the Coppola short of it.
I'm just trying to remember which one's which.
It starts with the Scorsese, which is phenomenal.
Is that the artist? Is that the artist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I remember
really
that one. I remember that one.
relationship.
I remember the stupid Woody Allen one, but I do not remember the Coppola one whatsoever.
The Coppola one is absolutely abysmal. It is.
Right. Yeah.
Listen to your daughter. It is about maybe your dad's away on the continent, always working, and actually that's a good thing because your daughter's become really street smart, and then we can all go to. And it seems like a panacea for absentee parenthood.
Right. Okay.
I just think it's crap. Listen to kids, whatever. I'm saying it's Megaslopolis.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's not porn though, so there you go.
It's not pornography. Godfather 3, I have still never seen.
So I had seen it before, and I rewatched the new cut, the Death of Michael Corleone.
Right. Okay.
Okay, spoilers. Here's a major change to Godfather 3, Godfather Code of the Death of Michael Corleone. Michael Corleone doesn't die at the end of the movie.
Oh, interesting. Force ghosts.
Which is interesting, and that is an interesting choice, because he emotionally dies in the movie, which is how it should end. So, and that is good. However, the perfect final shot of Godfather 2 does the entire story of Godfather 3. It just does it. This idea of this man that was so high is now so low, and it's all his undoing, and everything's going to fall apart. And the Fredo thing around that is perfect. It's so unnecessary, this movie, because we jump 15 years or whatever, and he's back on top again, and it's such a different Al Pacino performance. He's so hoorah, straight out of Scent of a Woman, and I think his performance here is terrible. And there's the very maligned Sofia Coppola performance. It's not fair. She shouldn't have been cast. That was, not great power dynamics there. She is bad, but I think that Pacino is worse. And the film is just papal fan fiction about these characters that, at its best, is doing a beat that The Godfather 2 already covered. And by reawakening and giving him this, it's just, I think it's just crap. And people want to say that it's actually quite good. If you don't think about it, it's like, if you don't think about it, it's the follow up to the greatest film ever. It's pretty good. No, it's just bad.
I'll get there one day, but again,
it's an outsider.
Yeah. Spooky season.
Yeah.
Bram Stoker. Dracula.
Have you seen Dracula?
Not for. Let's have a look. 8 years, which means practically no.
What do you think of it? What do you think of it?
I remember seeing the Simpsons parody, Treehouse of Horror parody, many times before I ever saw the film, which is very much my thoughts and feelings of the movie. I remember a very stunted and stilted Keanu Reeves, as he can be. Bad. I remember a very sexualized Winona Ryder and a very creepy Gary Oldman, and that's largely it. Really, it's been a very long time.
I thought I'd like this more, and I actually ended up liking it less. I just don't. It just loses me so much. I don't think it's that interesting. It's not full on sexy transgressive, but it kind of edges towards that. I guess edges is the right term. It is not quite Baroque, but it's not realist. It is a strange, unrealised in between for me. It's theatrical rather than being expressionist. I don't think it overly works. I get the appeal. I understand people really love it. It is fun to watch as a story of Dracula, and it tells the story of Dracula pretty well. I don't think it's a very good movie. I don't think it's really worthy of conversation. I think it is just an outsider.
I think I watched this either the same week or the same month I first watched Herzog's Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski.
Oh, interesting.
which definitely took the upper hand out of that. But
Jack.
I've never seen my own movie. I think every time I get to a letterbox milestone, every 500,000 logs, I'm always like, I should watch Jack as my silly log. Maybe it's coming up, but also I just don't think it's going to be very good. And judging by
the premise of Jack,
I assume Robin Williams is a man boy.
Yeah, so he is a boy born rapidly aging. So by the time he's 18, he's physically
Robin Williams
in his
age.
80s.
Gotcha.
Way older.
Right.
So by the time he's 18, he will be a senior man on the verge of death.
Sounds good.
He will. It's the metaphor kind of is like the childhood arc as its own arc of life, and then the death at the end. But his mental faculties develop as the way they would normally. So it's the reason Jack is terrible is because it's completely tragic as a premise, and the screenwriter is deeply aware that it's deeply tragic and keeps showing how there's a point where Jack realizes he can't date the girls in the school because that doesn't work.
That's weird.
Because he's too big for them. But he can't date his teacher because he's a child.
That's also weird. Okay, so
And
there's this just trapped in this
keeps
middle
incurring
ground.
that. And it's so about the weight of horrible adulthood and someone that is just dying. And the ending of the movie is him just basically giving his epitaph speech as you can see his family watch him and know that, oh, he's driven off. If the movie continued, he would just die.
He would just crumble to dust.
And all the jokes are just crude.
I assume just 90s Robin Williams. Is he improving? Is he bebopping and scatting all over the shop, or is this
not really? Because I think he would be
piece?
funnier if he was. And I think the humor is really kind of like inappropriate and weird because it's so broad. The screenwriter is the writer of who went on to do the Purge series, which is quite funny.
What? Okay, sure.
The Purge being the only day when you can write the screenplay to Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Crime is legal one day a year.
There's a thing I noted down one of the jokes here. So most of the jokes are a child and adult topics. So at one point, Jack has told a story at a bar because he goes to a bar because I think it's an adult.
Of course, yeah.
About this dude at the bar talks about how he was being spanked by this girl and he went flaccid. He uses the word limp, and Jack doesn't know what going limp means, so he asks something like, "So you couldn't use your leg?" And he goes, "Yeah, I guess I couldn't use my leg." And that's the joke.
I get it.
Right?
I get it. I'm having fun. I'm laughing at the movies.
And there's a point earlier where the teacher, who is the framed, attractive teacher that Jack has a crush on, asks his 10-year-old, they want to be a bit older, and the kid says, "Because of you, I want to be a gynecologist."
Oh, God. Sure. I'm sure
it's Megaslopolis.
Megaslopolis, right, okay, yeah.
At least the softcore porn is, so we're going to go...
Okay, yeah.
We're going to go there. That's not really a movie. That is a movie, and that's a problem.
That's a bad movie. Okay. Sorry, Jack.
Thus we have the last actual film for a while, The Rainmaker.
The Rainmaker. Matt Damon.
Not The Rain People.
Claire Danes.
Yeah.
John Voight.
Danny
Here we go.
is good. It's a Damon DeVito buddy movie about them being fledgling
Damon DeVito
lawyers.
is very good.
And that buddy aspect is really strong. And when it's a film about them learning to be lawyers and therefore uncovering how this lawyer world eats up good intention and how you're caught up in these things, I think it's really good. It's an adaptation of what's the writer's name? I'll have to double check.
John Grisham.
John Grisham, yes, there you go. So yeah, the lawyer book guy, and it is a novel's worth of plot stuck into a movie, and it has to become this focused story on this one court case that is about how this kid's going to die because forever child, I guess. This kid's going to die because the insurance company won't pay for the treatment for their leukemia, and Damon is trying to take them over to court with this about how they should, etc., etc. And the kid dies, but they win in court, and blah, blah, blah. So that's the Pyrrhic victory of it, of you can beat these people, but it's interesting, but not worth the conversation. Actually, I guess it is, because it's quite good, so I think it's worth conversation because of that, but maybe it's an outsider. So why it's interesting is this is the kind of film that Spielberg became the master of. Sorry, not Spielberg, Soderbergh became the master of.
Right.
Soderbergh's got like 5 films like this that are zippy and clever, and Erin Brockovich is this film but so much better. And he's got The Informant, which is this film but so much better. And he works with Matt Damon, in The Informant. So Soderbergh takes this thing and makes it zippy and brilliant and clever and smartly anti-capitalist. This just feels bogged down by the plot that it's got, but the buddy stuff is really good. So it's on the edge of Outsiders. I'm going to put it slightly below Dracula, I guess.
Below Dracula, a place you do not want to be.
Are you familiar with the movie Supernova?
I think I should watch this. I've been on a real sci-fi space tear recently, and this just, I don't know if it's going to be good. Wait, whoa. Directed by Walter Hill, Francis Ford Coppola, and Jack Shoulder. What's going on?
Coppola came in to edit it at the end because the studio
because you've got
had him on retainer.
You've got Walter Hill and the director of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. I'm intrigued. I have no idea what's going on here.
So wild movie about crew distress signal, blah 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 blah. They find something and mutated to monsters.
Hell yeah.
It's very generic sci-fi horror.
I'm seeing some incredibly low scores here. Intriguingly
it's
low.
awful.
From
It's
people I would expect
awful.
to, yeah.
Because it's almost incomprehensible. So the first cut was seen as being like too sexy and too violent, taken away, coming away. Someone has the governor go at it, and in the end, it's given to Coppola to make something kind of like friendly out of this, and it's just a hodgepodge mess, almost unwatchable. It's just crap. So it is on the verge of being utter Megaslopolis.
Utter Megaslopolis. It's better. It's better than his New York Story.
That's a crime.
That's a crime.
Yeah. Youth Without Youth is
another made-up movie.
So this is a big gap now, and then he's back with this trilogy of no one's watching these movies or has heard of them.
Yeah,
but they're really kind of interesting.
I've heard some takes on the next couple that I am very, very intrigued by, especially post Megalopolis. People have been referring back to Tetro and Twixt.
Tetro the Iron Man.
If only.
So Youth Without Youth is a really ambitious late period auteur movie that just is a loose collection of themes. It's kind of English Patient-y, it's kind of Benjamin Button-y, it's really strange. So a person in Prague, I think this is set in the Second World War, is struck by lightning and then finds themselves 40 years younger and therefore unknown. And that's kind of the plot. So it's about time in that way, and it expands that way, and they find others in that way. Halfway through, it just ends up being a love story, and that's what it settles on being. It doesn't make any sense. It is just kind of loosely associative. It's really interesting at every moment because I think it's quite visually engaging. And it's so going for ideas, but it's going for ideas over the plot that supports those ideas, and the ideas are interesting, but they are so misarticulated. It's not a coherent work. So I'm saying it is... I think it's worth talking about. I think this one's worthy of conversation.
I rarely trust the Letterboxd algorithm with the similar films that they list at the bottom of a film's page, but this one has Aronofsky's The Fountain, Mr. Nobody, Soderbergh's Solaris.
I would say Soderbergh's Kafka is very similar to this.
Vanilla Sky, Waking Life, Mulholland Drive, Stalker, Persona.
It wants to be. Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of Army of Shadows. It's a bit of The English Patient.
What? Interesting.
It's also quite Orientalist. So he is actually a professor he is an Orientalist. So it's using it in its correct term as a study of. But there is this kind of obsession with East Asian culture in a very kind of like outsider way that just feels a bit like whatever. It's ponderous. Tetro, the Iron Man. Tetro is his nepotism movie.
Nepo baby movie, cool.
It's the nepotism movie. It's the very conventional black and white to show that it's artsy character drama about there's a genius kid that left the family, was a great writer, but and I'll see if you can see the parallels here. Daddy was a musician and a great musician.
Got it.
And that overshadowed, and there can only be one genius. And Coppola believes so much in the idea of singular genius. And that's really interesting, of the great people. And the dad says to this kid, he can't be a playwright because there's only one genius in his family. And that kind of sets this person's life. So he runs away, and then later his kid brother goes to meet him because in the letter it's like, if you want to come see me, then come see me, leave the family, and finds himself being not wanted by this person that's renamed himself Tetro. And the plot is just the unpicking of what actually is going on, what actually has gone on, and the dynamics between them. It's very conventional. I think it's quite interesting as a narrative work and compelling. The ideas are not that interesting, but it's thoughtful in construction. And I do like this idea that it's a film confronting the weight of fame on your children. And also, as a late career work, it works that way. I just think it's quite a conventional, quite dull movie, and it's got Vincent Gallo at the heart, which is obviously a level of uncomfortability.
Yeah, that's, levels of uncomfortability with who you cast in leading performances definitely leans into Megalopolis territory, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to put Tetro as Worthy of conversation there. I think it's a better film than Gardens of Stone. I do think it is.
It's no Whip Van Winkle though. So
that's really interesting.
I genuinely need to check. I do need to check all these out really. But
Twixt is
Twixt. Twixt. I've seen
the
takes
deadly
on.
premonition of the Coppola filmography. So it wants to be Twin Peaks. It wants to be Edgar Allan Poe. It is about a writer. It wants to be Stephen King. It wants to be Alan Wake. It's obviously before Alan Wake.
It wants to be.
No, it's not. It's not before Alan Wake. No, it's not before Alan Wake.
It wants to be Alan Wake 2.
He also Alan Wake 2, but it's before Alan Wake 2. It's about a writer that is. It reminds me of The Dispossessed a little bit, but it's nowhere near as good as The Dispossessed, obviously. So, writer goes out to this town. This writer is famous for writing witch books and is going to not write a witch book. His marriage is falling apart, and he meets the ghost of Edgar Allan Poe that helps him solve a murder that's key to this town that reveals there's vampires in this town. And maybe as he's it's so prosaic, it's so exactly what you think it is. Maybe as he explores the past and the trauma of this town, he's actually exploring his past and his own trauma. And maybe this child vampire figure he keeps seeing forever stuck as a child links to the fact that he had a child that died around that age, and really it's all about that. It's Makes just sense. Crap.
Narrated by Tom Waits.
Yes, the Tom Waits stuff is fun because Tom Waits speaks
Tom Waits
fun.
Is great. He speaks fun.
A good amount of the movie is him talking about how he doesn't have an ending, how endings are hard, how he can't do endings, and that becomes a meta point for the ending sucking. And
brilliant,
the joke is on you, audience. You can say the ending is bad on purpose, but no, it's.
Where are we putting that? It's an outsider. It's in Megaslopolis. Oh, he's unsure. Is it the top of the dog shit pile, or is it the bottom of the less dog shit pile?
You know what? There's a scene in it where Val Kilmer, who's not very good, but freaks out in a room. One of the ways he freaks out is he does a Colonel Kurtz impression from Apocalypse Now, and only Coppola can get away with that. So for that reason, it's at the end of The Outsiders. Next we have Megalopolis, which we're not going to talk about.
A movie that just does not need to be talked about. It needs to be seen and experienced.
The most worthy of conversation movie that has ever been made.
Ever been. This movie will be talked to about forever, I feel.
It ain't from the heart. It ain't God tier. It's an outsider, but it's not in that way. It ain't Megaslopolis. It's Megalopolis. It's a different film. That's not the title of that movie. It is worthy of conversation. Here we have the tier list of Francis Ford Coppola, minus the Godfather epic.
Minus the Godfather. What was this other one?
But I'm going to presume it's worth the conversation.
Oh, you watched like
I can't put it back. No, it's locked in. No,
it's locked in. No,
it's committed.
It's got to be Godfather 2.
I mean, we spoke about it.
It's worthy of conversation. So there we go. Yeah. That is the complete rundown. Do you think he's going to do anything ever again?
Yes, he's got 2 films in production at the moment.
He's got The Glimpses of the Moon listed on Letterboxd. I don't know how far into production or pre-production any of this stuff is. But again, if Megalopolis was the last thing he ever put out, the last statement from an artist, I think that would make sense. I think the whole context around it, I think, again, I just need to see the movie again at least a couple more times. It's the last kind of film. If it's not his last film, it's the last of... It's the end of the movie company. It's the end of American Zoetrope. It's the end of that era, the dying gasp of that, and that makes it really interesting. Absolutely.
Worthy of conversation.
John Voight has a little tiny bow and arrow. Is it a comedy? No. Is it a comedy?
Is he ruining a politician's career? Maybe.
Is it possibly? Is he casting terrible people in his movie? Yes. Is he casting good people in his movie? Yes. Is it a mess?
In all of
yes.
It's everywhere.
It's everything everywhere.
Does it promote the conversation?
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Stephen Francis Ford Coppola, what have you learnt?
That he loves forever children. He believes in singular genius. I think he's very naive in a very idealistic way, and isn't always great at articulating that into film. And when he's got some material that's got a lot there, I mean, the Godfather films are known for taking a pulp novel and making art out of it. And I think when he's got that thing to really build on, he can obviously do something really spectacular. And with the constraint to the conversation as a zag. But I think that's also because he was surrounded in such an artistic environment, and I think he's retreated more and more into himself, obviously, and continues to make interesting films, continues to make standout films, continues to make films, or try to make films, and they are all to an extent worth watching, and they all reveal something about him as a filmmaker and what he's interested in, and it is despite being all over the place, a very cohesive filmography in the things it keeps going over.
Some very singular entries, I think. There's only so many Captain EOs you get in your lifetime, and Captain EO is definitely up there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. He's great and he's terrible.
He's great. He's terrible. A singular voice. An absolute madman these days.
Yes. Yeah. Seemingly
there we go.
not a good person.
No. Yeah. A lot of the stuff surrounding that. Sure. But yeah, that's Francis Ford Coppola. This has been the Stacks Tier Maker series as we continue to do these, sporadically when Stephen feels the need to go on an absolute tear through filmographies and we talk through them. Thank you very much for watching this. This is going to be on our YouTube and the audio will be on our podcast feed. If this is your first Stacks video, please subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Rate. You can't even rate YouTube videos back in.
Rate us in a way that, like, I rate that.
I rate that. Slang time.
You can go
subscribe. You can listen to the podcast feed. You can go to thestacks.co.uk for more updates from us. You can go to patreon.com/thestacksonfilm. You can follow us both on Letterboxd and X and Blue Sky and Discord. We're all over the place. Thank you very much for watching, listening.
Francis,
he's been Stephen. I've been Jack. Thank you very much. And as always, don't let the Megaslopolis
make you an outsider worthy conversation. Keep one from the heart and end Godfather tier.
Thank you for this worthy conversation, Stephen.
Same Stacks time, same Stacks channel.
Godspeed.